Okay, welcome back, you guys. Today we have a fantastic person with us, Mr. Sid Krommenhoek. Welcome on.
Hey,
happy
to be here, man.
So Sid's background, and well, I'll probably do another intro later, but former D1 basketball player at BYU, starts a company called Zinch. You can see it on his shirt. Does really well, lives in China. You end up taking it public, right? Cashes out, but instead of living on a beach in Maui for the rest of your life, you decide to start a VC fund.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hop into that. Why get into VC? Why not just retire? Why not go sail around the 7 seas? Like, what made you want to start a VC fund?
Yeah, sure. So the experience in starting several startups, which I had 2 failures, I had 2 that worked out, it introduced me to the world of venture capital. So I raised money from VCs, and in the process had some of the best experiences to this day. My mentor in what I do now, one of them is a guy named Mike Leventhal, one of my early investors. He was a longtime VC at Mayfield in the Bay Area. I also had bad experiences, and I won't overly get into those. Let's focus on, kind of good energy. But what it taught me was, it makes a huge difference. A VC will not make your business great, but it can definitely make making a good business a lot harder. And so there was a personal interest and just experience that I could kind of empathize with the good and the bad. And then...
And how many rounds, or when you were starting Zinch, how many VCs ended up being a part of
good question.
company?
So we raised a seed round, we raised a Series A, and then the same company that led our Series A led our Series B, and then we had a Series C on the table when we at the same time had a competing offer to be acquired, which we ended up going with. That we kind of ran the gamut there, so really for me, I had never considered ever being an entrepreneur actually as a kid, let alone a VC. And then even when I was starting companies, I don't think I ever cognizantly said I want to be on the venture side. To me, that seemed kind of like the little bit more dry. It's mostly capital. What else do they do? But again, I appreciated what in fact a VC could be to me as an entrepreneur. And so saw what was happening in Utah. My career and my last company had taken me from Provo, Utah, to then we moved it to San Francisco. I opened an office abroad in China, as you mentioned, and found my way back to Utah. And it was at a time when things had reached kind of a new level of growth in the tech scene, and there was a shortage of capital. Some existing great investors here in the state, but what we viewed as a shortage of capital. So we wanted to throw our hat in the ring and see if we could add to the spectrum of what entrepreneurs had.
So, and I've seen some of your previous interviews.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not the kid growing up that had the lemonade stand and was just always wanted to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So you got pushed in with, I've heard some of your interviews, but right,
Yeah.
you had a business partner, and you ended up, going on a few business ventures.
Yeah.
Did really well.
Yeah.
You want to keep continuing that, especially in the Utah space.
Yeah.
So you're an Album VC.
Yeah.
Right. So Album VC, you guys primarily focus on Utah startups. Is that right? What percentage of your portfolio is in Utah versus other places?
A bit more than half.
Okay.
So we do, Utah is like this, because we are early stage, and because at the early stage, being able to have real proximity to your founders, we think can be helpful. Half and a bit more than half of our deals are right here in our backyard. But incidentally, so in Fund 3, my first 2 deals, the first is in New York, the second is in Austin. So we also look outside of the US, but a lot of our work and of course most of our ability to kind of help you on the local scene is right here in our backyard.
So you wake up, you're like, all right, I want to start a VC. I don't like previous VCs we worked with. I want to be
loved some, didn't like a few. Yeah.
So you want to be like the awesome VC that shows up and is like the best partner ever.
Sure.
So you want to start Album VC.
Yeah.
Did you just say, woke up one day and say, I want to start a fund? Did you partner with people? Because a lot of our viewers are wanting to start funds, right? Yeah. So how did you get into that space? Did you have previous experience, or did you find partners? How did that work, that initial setting up stage?
Great question. So I had been angel investing for about a decade. So even when I was starting companies, and since my first company, I had started in a very unsophisticated way initially. Like, somebody pitched me and I was kind of flattered, and I was like, that sounds like a good idea. And I remember investing in I won't bore you with it, but a medical devices company. And I think I still have ownership in that company. But so I had been doing some angel investing, and really starting a VC comes down to a few things. One, you need to have people, partners that you think have some competence around presumably investing and supporting, whatever you're investing in our case, tech companies. Second, you need capital. That capital can be your own. which it was some of our own, or you need people who believe that you are the right people to manage that capital. And so it was a hybrid of the two. Me and my partner, John Mayfield, so we have been together since the first fund. Our other partner now, Diogo, he was actually managing a family office, but we saw him and we were kind of looking at deals together. And so that kind of was the early beginnings of what we are today, a partnership. Me, John Mayfield, Diogo Mija as the investing GPs, your general partners. And then we had limited partners then, have limited partners now. Your limited partners are the people who invest in you. So in addition to your own money, which in every fund, a lot of it's our own capital, we've got the people who believed in us. And I can take you through kind of what those look like, but we were fortunate to have some folks who believed in us then. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, they were right here together, a big group of them from Brazil, incidentally, who bet on a couple guys in Utah. They still are big investors in our firm and have become really good friends and kind of appreciate what we're doing here and throughout the U.S.
Something I want to note too for people listening that I've had a lot of people tell me the same thing is you've got to have skin in the game in your own funds.
Yeah.
There's no way that you're asking someone to put millions of dollars into your fund and you're not willing to write a check, even if it's a small check, relatively small, it's still a big percentage of your personal net worth, right, into the fund, which you guys have obviously done with your partners. Yeah. So in the partnership lineup, where do you land? What's kind of your role? Are you more of the expert investor, partner with the VC? Are you more of the fund management structure? Are you more of the money raiser type of partner?
Good question.
Where are you at?
Yeah, so we view our partnership, me, John, and Diogo, it's what we call, we're full stack VCs. That's kind of a fancy way. It's the best way we can describe what we do. And what it essentially means is at the stage we invest, seed, which you'd presumably a seed fund is kind of 100 million, let's say, or less. And there are different strategies with how venture capital has grown. There are larger funds who still play actively in seed. So I don't want to overly categorize like what we do, but generally speaking, like when you consider the size of check in our case to lead a seed round, which is how we like to approach our business.
You try to lead. You try to be the first one in. Hey, wow,
we do.
That's awesome. So you're early seed,
we are.
That's great.
In that case, we are investing at a time when there are not 3 years of financials. You're trying to intuit from the founder more than you're scrutinizing in a spreadsheet. Because of that, we outsource we've outsourced nothing as it relates to doing deals. And similarly, we don't outsource what we do with our LPs in raising money. We don't outsource any piece of our business. So some folks will retain somebody to help them go raise money in the Middle East or wherever else in the world. We just don't. We do our own fundraising. It's something that each of us takes ownership in. So like right now, for example, if I have a trip coming up in New York City, I'm prioritizing my time to meet with the entrepreneurs that we've invested in or considering an investment in. But I'll also visit an LP that we have out there, and I may take another meeting to get to know an LP, an investor who could in the future invest in our fund. So we each take on that responsibility for the fundraise. The strategy is a collective exercise on our fund strategy and thesis of how we invest, and then the actual investing itself and the day-to-day, we just don't outsource. We feel like at this stage, when capital has become a commodity in our industry, we think that accountability risks being at an all-time low. And so we've over-indexed by saying, we don't have any stones to hide behind. Like every deal we do, there is one partner who led that deal who has clear accountability from due diligence to ownership moving forward. Yeah. And that we think is something that has resonated, for us as a partnership and resonates for both founders and the investors in our fund.
Wow, I love that. Jeez. And by the way, people listening, Utah is blowing up right now in the tech world, and Album is one of the leaders of the venture, one of the biggest venture capital firms in Utah, leading that growth and being one of those first investors in, which I love. So congrats to you guys. I mean, that's huge to be there and on the tip of the sword, you could say, of what's happening here in Utah, which is really cool.
Appreciate it.
So Sid, I know you've obviously had this incredible career, done really well. Where do you, I know you love to give back to help people out. What do you do philanthropically to help others and maybe some of our users and followers can see kind of a new breath and something that you care about?
Yeah, absolutely. The journey of startup or any of us in our careers is probably more defined by just the life journey that we're on. And for me, what doesn't always come out, are, along the way, things that have impacted my life, my family's life in a really meaningful way. I mentioned China, I mentioned my family. One of my children, my daughter, Micah, was born when we lived in China with major medical issues. And I kind of chalk up to two things. My daughter, her life being saved, and her today being a thriving young sweet girl who just started her little cupcake business last week.
Awesome, yeah.
And those are, one, there's a deep appreciation for our country. It sounds a little cliche, but when you're living in another country and you see what the U.S. Embassy, can do when your kid's in harm's way, like I owe a lot to, then it was Ambassador Huntsman, who was the U.S. ambassador to China.
Yeah.
He's remained a good friend. He's living back in Utah, and I just deeply appreciate, what he was at the leading edge of, as a leader for our country. And then secondly, Primary Children's Hospital. So my daughter was there for months, and my wife, as I was running my startup with my other two kids in Beijing, it was the hardest time of my life, no question. And so, every time we walk into Primary Children's, for us, it is like a special place, few places on earth. And we appreciate the people there, down to like the dog that they had that was like one of these, like I forget what they call it, like a comfort dog, that therapy dog or something, that walked the halls with our daughter. Like I just, you owe so much. Like everything fades to the back when it's your little one in a tough situation. And so
I'm so happy she's done well too. That's so incredible.
Oh, yeah.
For people listening, walk us through Primary Children's, why they're a special hospital. Because in Utah, you know them, but people maybe outside here won't know them.
Yeah, Primary Children's, like other children's hospitals in the U.S., they have a focus on these young people, and we've all known somebody who struggled with cancer. When you see a young person, say, with cancer, that was not Micah's condition, thank goodness, but it takes on a new level. Like the indefensibility, the fragileness of a young person, the size of their body, and it just hits you at a different level, I think. And so Primary Children's is a remarkable, world-class facility, that we have here in Salt Lake City that cares for thousands of children every year. And what I would say is most distinct is, you just see in that place from everybody involved, like there is, world-class medicine and practitioners, but kind of world-class humanity. And that for us, it just makes all the difference. And so I'd strongly encourage, when we're in grocery lines for donations and when they run their annual donations, it's important to our family because we were beneficiaries of that place and those caregivers.
I love that. Yeah. So Sid, how can people, if you want people to learn more about you or find you online or some of your companies you invested in, how can they do that? Yeah,
for sure. So we're in kind of some of the typical places, there's just album.vc, and you can go, and we try to keep it minimal and clean to sort of point you clearly to what matters to us, which is very few things in terms of lines of text, but also it's our companies. And then, we're also on Twitter, even Instagram, album.vc on Instagram, albumvc on album.vc on Twitter as well. Of course, all of us are on LinkedIn. We like to share enough that we point, toward the people who make our worlds go round, which is our founders and their companies. And then most of the time, you're not going to find us like 24/7, in those places. 24/7, we are thinking about our companies and kind of doing a lot offline. But that is a way to get a sense. On my own LinkedIn, I will publish occasionally on things that I think people might care to know, and that I'm not looking to necessarily just echo the world. There's a lot of great authorship and platforms out there to learn broadly about this stuff. But Album, we think there's something unique, and we can be found in those places.
I love it. Great. Go follow Sid. Figure out, find out all. I mean, he's a fantastic person to follow. Album VC, you guys are crushing it. Company to watch for the next 5-10 years. See where your company's. I'm really excited to see what you guys do in Utah, and it's really exciting.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.